Hey, what's up, guys? We're back again with another YouTube video, and this time we're doing the updated post-May Melee power rankings. I haven't done a power rankings here in a while, since week 2, and I've kind of just let the May Melee play out, and I've kind of just slipped my mind to not do another one. But I figured I'd get on, record a quick video here and do just a brief summary of what I think has changed. And here on the screen is what I had from the weeks before. This is from week 2. From both sides. So I'm just gonna make a quick video and quickly make some adjustments here and not take too much of your time. So let's get into it. So I'm gonna start from the bottom of NA, and I don't think the bottom of NA has changed too much. Obviously because these teams haven't really played the May Melee. So I think most of the changes you'll see will end up being at the top here with the teams that ended up playing. So London being down here at number 12 in NA, it stays the same. I mean, London just hasn't really shown any progress here, any sort of improvements. Kind of played the same style of comps. Same results versus middle tier teams. So they're gonna stay down at the bottom for me. Same with Vancouver. Vancouver's shown a little bit of hope. They took a map versus the Washington Justice on Rush, but that hasn't been Washington's best looks that I've seen from them. And Vancouver's not that bad. Not as bad as people thought they'd be. I think they've been all right. They've shown some hope versus some teams. And maybe Teru coming in from Korea over to NA will kind of make a big difference for this team. Now Paris is a tough one. I thought about changing where Paris is sitting simply because of the Neptuno leaving the team. But they've replaced him with another French player, Drijo. And Drijo's been a long time tier 2 main support that a lot of people have hyped up over the years. Specifically known for his mercy play. So we'll have to see how flexible Drijo is for the team. Obviously, when you're the only player on the team for the roster, you have to be able to play all the heroes at a high level. So we'll see how Drijo slots into the team. But I'm not going to move Paris up or down simply because of the roster changes, because it's too uncertain to say, really. Boston Uprising. Now, this is a team where I had Boston rated a little bit higher at the start of the year, and they just started out really flat. They ended up playing a lot of rush comps over the first couple of weeks, and they were playing like Sigma Doom. And I think I've been very vocal about what's the word for it? Dissatisfied of what the comps Boston been playing. Not a big fan of what they've been playing, and they just look kind of disjointed. So I'll be excited to see with the new upcoming hero bans what Boston will adapt to. Hopefully not as much Doomfist. Maybe get Valentine onto the Echo and play more like Echo Ash comps. It'll be interesting to see if they continue to run with Punk as well, or if they will play with Gabosi, who ended up coming to NA and be on the main roster. So we'll see how that plays out for the Boston Uprising. The Atlanta Reign. Again, this is another team that's kind of played a lot of rush over the weeks, not really shown a lot of their takes. I think everybody agrees that Atlanta's rush comps are very, very good, but they have just not shown the flexibility to play other comps. So again, I think Atlanta's a team that might benefit pretty strongly from hero bans here, because they've removed Zen, they've removed Somber, they've removed Tracer, a lot of heroes that Atlanta just hasn't played. They've stuck mostly to the Kai on the hard hit scan and Pelican with the flex. But again, I think this is another team that could really benefit from the hero pools that are being laid down. Maybe they could go over to double shield, maybe put the Kai on the Ash, Pelican on the Echo. I think they have a lot of potential here to move up in the standings. Toronto Defiant. I'm not sure where I go on Toronto Defiant. I'm actually gonna move Toronto down a spot, simply because I simply think other teams just benefit from hero pools more. I'm not really sold on Toronto Defiant's flexibility on their team members, and they don't really seem certain on what roster they want to field yet completely. They've had Logics kind of sitting on the bench, not really playing when they need a Tracer. They've had Lastro and Aztec kind of bouncing in and out. So we'll kind of see where Toronto goes with the roster, but I have a little more faith in Atlanta for the time being, so I'm going to move Toronto down one spot. Los Angeles Gladiators. Now, I am a firm believer that I think Gladiators will probably end this June Joust, tournament qualifiers, whatever you want to call it, 6-2. I think they're going to go 4-0. I think their schedule is very favorable for them at the moment. If I could actually pull it up here on the side here and pull up the Gladiator schedule. I think Gladiators have a very favorable schedule. I think the first map of them was not very favorable. So we've got a Gladiators team page here, and I'll pull it up here in a second. Go to their schedule. And we'll pull it up here. So their matches at the start here, as you see, they played Shock the first game of the season. They lose a close 3-1 versus Shock. They played the Dallas Fuel, and of course the Dallas Fuel ended up being the best team in the game right now. easily number 1 because they won the May Melee. And they come back and they beat Glads and Boston in a convincing 3-0. So I think the first 2 matches were quite hard for Gladiators, and I think the coming schedule was a lot easier. They play Vancouver Titans, who's at right now is a bottom 3 team. Atlanta Reign, a team that's really only shown rush with not a lot of improvements. Boston Uprising, again, another team that's been pretty low in the leaderboards, not a lot of improvements. And the Paris Eternal, a team that just lost their main support and has also been very low on the leaderboard. So I would not be surprised if Gladiators go 4-0 for this month. So I'm not going to move them, I don't think. I think they stay where they are, simply because the other 5 teams have just shown more, have shown me more right now. But I think Gladiators have a lot of potential to move up in the leaderboards, post-June Joust for sure. And this is where the big move's going to go. So I'm going to move Houston all the way down here, simply because they were the team that did not make May Melee. They looked good at the start of the season, but the matches leading up to the qualification, they just did not look... They were good, not great, and that's why I'm going to put them number 5. Not a whole lot to say. I think their team has potential. But it seemed like when Happy wasn't having a hard carry performance, that Houston just didn't have enough punching power to kind of punch through these top teams. I'm also going to move the Washington Dusters down, again, because they did not make the May Melee. It'd be silly not to put Dallas and Florida at number 1 and number 2, or vice versa. Washington, again, I think is a good team, but not as good as people thought they'd be. They haven't really had a rush, not a rush competition. They've played double bubble, but even with Mag on the Winston, their team hasn't looked amazing. They've looked good, like I said, they've looked good, not great on all of the comps, and I really need them to kind of punch through on the other comps and hit that great level into the competitions they play before I can put them any higher than where they are now. And now this is where, obviously, well, it's not tricky. You're going to have to put San Francisco Shock 3rd. I think it's the first time I've moved San Francisco Shock off of number 1, simply because I had not seen a reason to not put them number 1. Something that I use to compare the Shock is like when the Chicago Bulls were doing their three-peats. After the first 2 years, teams, if you didn't put the Bulls number 1 and we're going to win, like, there was something wrong with you, right? So you just had to, like, naturally for me, I had to put Shock number 1. And I still think Shock could be number 1 after the series. You'll kind of see if Shock has that typical slow start and if they'll bounce back in the June Joust, similar to like how they've done used before, or is this a different Shock team and they're going to struggle and not be number 1 this year? That remains to be seen. But for now, Shock will be number 3. And again, I'm going to leave this exactly how it is. Dallas Fuel number 1 and Florida Mayhem number 2. I think Florida looked good at times. They just seemed very slow starters in their matches. I think there was high potential. I predicted that Florida would actually win the May Melee, and I think they had the opportunity to do that. Just a couple close matches and really sloppy on some maps. It seemed like very slow starters and kind of got in their own heads too much. And now we're talking about the Dallas Fuel. The Dallas Fuel, in my opinion, have been the only team in the Overwatch League that have actually looked like a cohesive team with flexibility and the ability to adapt. I don't think any other team in the league has adapted quite as Dallas has. They don't have a hit scan player. The fact that Dallas do not have a hit scan player and they are able to just mold and do whatever they want and win series is amazing to me. They have Fearless and Hanbin, which right now I think is the best tank line in the game. They have Sparkle and Doha, who, while not the best part of their teams, have been super solid considering they have 2 flex DPS in. They were playing. Dude, they had Sparkle on Soldier at some point and they were winning maps. Like, that is nuts to me. So big props to Dallas Fuel. I think they've been very good right now, and easily deserving the number 1 spot. And now we're gonna move to the APAC region. Again, there's not gonna be a whole lot of changes near the bottom. It'll probably be top heavy because of the May Melee. But let's go through it real quick. The Los Angeles Valiant. I just don't see the Valiant ever moving off the number 8 spot in this league. They just don't have the talent for it, and there's not much else to say about the Valiant really. Again, the Charge is a team that's gone through a big coaching staff change. I think they lost Arachne and was it Damon? I've got the coaches, but they lost their head coach and another coach, and they have Nico there now. I'm not sure who the head coach is, but they're making big coaching changes, so it'll be interesting to see if that affects their team. But I can't really move them up or down until we see. And here I'm going to make a change. Over the past couple of weeks, I watched Spark, especially after the coaching change they had. The Spark brought in Shy, and they've looked a lot better as a team. They haven't been stellar by any means, but I would definitely put them above New York. Simply because they brought in Shy. Shy has been absolutely fucking on the hit scan. And he's been kind of disgusting to watch, and he's kind of bumped his team up a notch. So, props to the Spark for bringing in Shy and making that move. And then talking about the New York Excelsior, I rated this team so highly. If you looked at the start of the year, I thought this would be the underdog team. I thought they would have a lot of fight, a lot of bark, a lot of bite, and they'd be really excited to have the rookies come in, and they'd be really hungry to win. They've looked super lost, not really confident in how they're playing. Not the same as when I saw the open scrim. They just haven't looked like the same team. So obviously they don't play the same in matches. Until they change that, I can't rate them any higher than they are now. But they definitely have the players on the team. I think have the potential to reach up into these top spots here. I'm leaving Seoul Dynasty at number 4. They did not make the May Melee. The fact that they lost to Chengdu Hunters and Chengdu was the first team out of May Melee, I don't really see a reason to move this team up or down. It's the same old team. I mean, I think I've watched some of their matches and they look good. I think Creative on the Zen. I remember watching Creative playing against Chengdu, and Creative had a nasty Zen. Just the rest of the team was lacking in some spots. They're very, it's just same old Seoul to me. They're very hit or miss sometimes. Sometimes they look great. Sometimes they look okay. And that's kind of based off the back of Gesture and Profit. The whole Gesture and Profit aren't trying in the regular season, and then they pop off in the playoffs. So I need to see more consistent performances out of them in the regular season for sure. And this is where we're making changes. Obviously, I'm putting Shanghai back at number 1. They look the best out of the APAC teams. Between Chengdu, they were miles ahead. They made it to the finals. They played a lot of teams really close. Just a really good team. They finally after you guys have watched any of my reviews, finally they stopped playing like the Zen Mercy monkey crap for the most part. They brought in Lit full time. There's no more DM. They're doing a really good job with what they have. And then I'm actually gonna leave Chengdu at number 3, even though they did make the May Melee and Philadelphia did not. I think Philadelphia has consistently just looked like the better team. And Chengdu, when I talk about Chengdu as the same team of old, where like they have a lot better players across the board. All 6 players are better with Gaga and all those big changes they made. But they have like this one style that if it gets broken, specifically like the Jinmu Unfair and stuff, or if they can't play Gaga on ball, and they just kind of get stuck in playing these comps, and even when they're not working, they keep trying to like jam it and force it, and they keep losing. They need to find more adaptability. They need to be able to change their comps on the fly. They need to be able to adapt, basically, before they're going to break into like the top team of APAC consistently, I think. Then the Philadelphia Fusion number 2. I think they're like the only team in APAC that has a rush comp. And they've looked good, honestly. They lost a very close series versus Shanghai. So I think if circumstances were different, you would have seen them in the May Melee, and maybe that tournament played out differently. But I think Philadelphia too makes a lot of sense for me. Now I could do what I'm gonna do real quick. I'm not gonna really talk about the teams. I'm just gonna quickly rate these teams 1 through 20. Try and do that every time if I can. So number 1, Dallas Fuel for sure. Let's name this real quick. Post May Melee rankings. Cool. Down at the bottom, I'm gonna put the Los Angeles Valiant. Also down at the bottom, the Vancouver Titans and London Spitfire. Like that. I want to tier break it as well, so we'll do this, and then we'll do where is Paris Eternal. Anybody else? We'll go Guangzhou as well, like Guangzhou here, and then we'll do a tier break. So this is what I consider the bottom of the league at the moment. Who to put behind Dallas? Probably the Florida Mayhem and the Shanghai Dragons. So I put Shanghai Dragons here, Florida Mayhem here. And then tier break? Like so? Because I don't, and I'll put like, I'll do this. I do Shock here, Chengdu here. Because even though Chengdu wasn't a May Melee, they just weren't on the same tier as these 3 teams that played. These 3 teams were a lot closer, and Chengdu was kind of the outlier for the teams. And I'd still rate Shock above Chengdu at the moment. And then we'll go with Philadelphia Fusion here. This is hard to do off the top of my head. I didn't really prepare for this at all. It's kind of hard to rate these teams. And we'll put Washington right below there. Houston maybe right below. And then we'll tier. No, and then we'll do Glads here. And then we'll tier break. Tier break. Like so. Tier break here. And then we'll do these kind of middle of the pack teams, and we'll kind of sort these out. I'll put Seoul near the top here. Boston down at the bottom, right there with Toronto. I think this looks good. Off initial list, so we have Dallas number 1, Shanghai number 2, Florida number 3, Shock number 4, Philly 5, Chengdu 6. Yeah, I think this makes a lot of sense. I think there's a lot of room for maneuverability here in these middle two. I think that's how it's always been this year. I think this year's a lot closer in terms of skill. I think a lot of teams just haven't really put the pieces together yet. So I think if any one of these teams kind of clicks and put these pieces together, this could change at any time. But I think how it looks now, even just very quickly, just taking a quick glance on it, it looks pretty good. I kind of like where I have all these teams rated. Obviously, there's little, there's arguments you can move some teams up or down, but I think where they're at right now looks pretty good. And actually, just to be a petty little bitch, there we go. Yeah, you know me. So thanks for watching, guys. I do appreciate it. Make sure you guys like and subscribe, and hitting the notification bell also helps out a lot. I really do appreciate the support, and I'll see you guys in the next one. All right, peace.